Decentering Men has been one of the best things I ever done. It opened up my eyes to the many things that I could do single. It created a new appreciation, and I was able to see the holes. Before Decentering Men, a lot of my time was really spent on dating apps. It was spent on trying to find someone and then getting frustrated and saying, why aren't there any good guys out there? All my focus was just on finding that person, and it caused a lot of low self-esteem, like depression, frustration, comparison, because it led to a lot of questions. Where are these men? That was all I thought about. It wasn't until God told me one day to just delete the apps. And until then, I didn't realize how attached I was to the apps, because it was actually very hard. And I could feel myself hyperventilating. And it led me to ask my questions. Why am I feeling so uncomfortable? Why is there this underlying fear of deleting the apps? Why was I so nervous? Of course, you probably guessed it. There was this underlying fear. Oh my goodness, what if I never meet the person? If I delete the app, it means that I'm never gonna meet the person. It didn't feel good, but I knew it was something that I had to do, because the fact that I felt so uncomfortable deleting the apps told me that it's something that I need to remove, because I'm obviously very attached to it. I've obviously spent years getting dependent on the app trying to find that person. There's obviously some type of addiction there. And then it led to more questions like, why does that even make me nervous? Because technically, if I have a healthy relationship with the app, I shouldn't be feeling nervous to let it go. It shouldn't create anxiety. It made me question myself. Is a man really more important than choosing myself? I don't think I ever took a step back and just asked myself those questions, or told myself, let's delete the app, because we live in a society right now. Most women are on dating apps trying to find a person because they believe they wouldn't find a person otherwise. A lot of women are feeling lonely. A lot of women want to find that person. They want that companion. They want that partnership. But then I see other sides of it where a lot of women complain about feeling depressed that they can't find someone. They feel like they somehow failed somewhere. They feel like there's something that they need to change. I was just speaking to a girl, and her friends were telling her, hey, like, you're not meeting someone, so you need to change up your look because you look like this, and nothing's wrong with changing. But then they started talking about the curls, and they're like, maybe you should straighten it. And the thing about it is, she was very wary about straightening her hair because you could get heat damage. And so right away when I heard that, I said, listen girl, if you want to change up your look, get a wig or something, but don't straighten your hair for no man. We got into this point where we feel like if we're not getting someone, we need to change something. And really, it should be changing for yourself. My answer would have probably been different to her if she had said, oh, I'm thinking of straightening my hair. As soon as I heard that she's trying to straighten it to find someone, I was like, oh, no. If it's to do for someone else, then don't do it. It has to be for yourself. Apps is just weaved ourselves in, and it's got us so obsessed. And then it makes us look inwards when we don't really need to look inwards most of the time. And then it makes us feel a certain way. We go down this roller coaster on apps because you have to kiss a lot of frogs apparently. This video is just gonna be a monologue. A video just talking about the benefits I've seen so far, just decentering men. Just being in a very healthy place of solitude and learning to be single in that journey. I found out the more I focused on myself, the more I was getting noticed. All of a sudden, when I was starting to focus myself, I started to enjoy my life, just starting to just do things I enjoy for me. More men were attracted to me. When you stop looking and you stop doing things for other people, people just start to notice you. And this is not only men, your friends, new people that you meet just want to be around you. They flock around you. They love your energy. Decentering Men allowed me to really find myself. So I got to see what I like and what I don't like. I got to see how I like to dress, how I don't like to dress. I discovered that when I was dating and constantly an app, I was neglecting myself. Not to say I look like some bum or anything like that. It wasn't that. It's just I found that I was trying to do everything based on trying to attract a person. Where once I decentered men, I was doing based on what do I like. There was someone in church where they came up to me and they're like, I noticed your style is different. I didn't realize it until they pointed it out. And I think I just naturally started feeling good. Because you see, like, when you don't feel good from the inside, it starts to pour out from the outside. People can see, like, when you're radiant. People can see when you're glowing. They could tell when you're not glowing and when you don't look good. The more I felt better with myself, the more I just started to change my style. The more I started to dress in a way that pleases me and not anyone else. Because you no longer have all that stress of hindrance and depression and constantly having to defend yourself, trying to prove yourself and trying to put this fake smile all the time and act a certain way. Man, it's like I felt like I could just be myself. I have this ongoing joke with friends where I say there's nothing like going out with girlfriends because I can just dress up comfortably and not have to worry about, oh my god, how do I have to dress for this person? I can just go with friends and be myself. I don't have to put up this whole facade, have this whole wall going in because you don't know if the guy's gonna be crazy. I like that idea of just going out with friends and you just dress up and, oh, I'm just there to have fun and I'm there to just be myself, and you could just let your hair out and relax. I act different and I look different. All the time that was spent on apps, I now can focus on myself. So I was starting to look into like Korean skincare and taking care of my skin. I started exercising. I started doing mini twists. I changed up my whole style. Now I have this goal of waist length here. I started to do more research because before then, it's like we don't realize it, but all our time is spent on these apps. There's a part of us that neglects itself. And it's not to say you don't do all the things that I mentioned, but I found for myself I had more time. It forces you to focus on yourself. If you are in a place where you're like, man, I wish I had more time focusing on myself, man, stop going on dates. What's funny about men is they do what they gotta do. I remember I met this guy, he didn't play around when it comes to playing soccer. He ran 3 miles a day and he did not negotiate that. And as women, we have to have non-negotiables where we have our time for ourselves. We don't do enough of that. And that was something that I realized for me. I became less dependent on always wanting to speak to someone. My kryptonite was nighttime. And if I was bored, oh, you better watch out. You better watch out. I would automatically run to dating apps. That was my thing. If I was bored and I needed to talk to someone, it wasn't calling a girlfriend or texting up girlfriends. It was like, oh, let me go on a dating app so I can talk to someone. Now, my time is spent reading books or researching or just really enjoying my company. It forced me to have a new appreciation for my company, to get out the house more and go to more events and enjoy life. So by the time I've done all those things, listen, I'm tired out. I don't have time to even think about going on the apps and talking to anyone. And of course, there were moments of self-doubt, and just in case you're wondering, there was moments of loneliness. But I was determined because I knew there wasn't a healthy relationship with the apps. I knew there was a healthy relationship with finding someone. And so I started replacing those things with reconnecting with God or praying, deepening my relationship, journaling, doing more activities, being more social. It's like anything, if you decide to stop doing something, you need to replace it with something else. It needs to be filled up with something else. In those times when it creeps in, I remind myself of my goals and the growth I've achieved. Once you start seeing the benefits, it changes everything because you start to get more revelations, you start to see things different. I have the privilege of telling a man now, straight up, I'm living my best life. So anything you try to do that's idiotic, it's not going to work because I'll be ready to dip. I am not desperate. I don't have any problems being single if it means that it's not the right person. I'm not settling. Like, I can actually say those things because I'm living my best life. I've seen the benefits. So it's like I'm not willing to leave that place unless it's the right person. This journey has taught me that fulfillment does not come from finding someone. It comes from within. We spend too much time and energy trying to find someone. We spend too much time being in an energy of frustration. It doesn't benefit anyone. Now I don't even reach for the apps. Once in a while I'll go on, oh, let's see what's happening there, and then I get off because it's not worth it to me. And I've tasted what it feels like to be in a very good place. I've tasted what it feels like to be just healthy and not seeking to find someone to fill that void. It's not a void that's wanting to be filled. The more I decentered men, the less I feel the need to find someone. The less I feel the need to speak to someone to make me feel good. I've managed to find different ways in different areas to fill those voids. I am way more happier and I'm way more satisfied and fulfilled. I'm unapologetically going out more. I'm not dependent on feeling like, oh, I need to have someone or I need to go on a date and feel romantic. I create that whole environment for myself. I started doing improv classes, and who would have knew I would enjoy that? If I spent my time what I did back then of being on the apps, I probably would have never experienced this. I would have never opened my mind to new things. I enjoy being selfish and not have to be in a beck and call depending on where a man's gonna bring me. Man, I create the best dates for myself. Me and my friends have this thing going where when we go to a nice place, we're like, man, a guy would never think of going to a place like this. And you know what I'm talking about? It's like those nice restaurants, those cute restaurants. I'm like, nah, like nothing, like no one plans it, like no one plans a nice going out date with friends like girls do. We know all the cute spots. We like planning those type of things. The bar has risen because I expect no less than that because I'm treating myself well. So the expectation is if I'm dating someone, like that's where they have to meet me because I'm doing it for myself. I'm not waiting for someone to create the life I want. I have a better routine. I have more confidence in myself. My self-esteem is way better and it's sky high. I'm very intentional about my day. I'm very protective of my space, and I no longer spend my days hearing guys say some foolish things like, oh, you're not gonna find this, when they're looking for one thing, and then I let it mess up my whole day. There's none of that. Or having my whole day messed up because you're not hearing from the guy, or he does a switch up because he's obviously not telling the truth, or he's being dishonest somewhere. There's none of this foolishness. They're no longer taking space in my mind where I'm like, why did they do this? Why would they do that? Why did they change up? What caused them to do this? You know how many girls I will see where they'll just spend so much time, like if a guy changes up or switches up, and they'll spend their time saying, but I don't know why. And it's like, who cares? Live your life, move on. There's no time for the guy to have rent in my head. I'm not constantly emotional and trying to figure out what the other person's thinking and what they're doing. I like this new me of not worrying about what other people think and just enjoying life. That's it. I'm more control of what I'm willing to accept, my space, and my peace of mind. And I would say that's what I got back, is my peace of mind. Until you decenter men, you don't understand how much peace you'll get. You don't understand how much men take over your life. And there's nothing wrong with finding someone. There's nothing wrong with wanting companionship. It's just so much healthier if you get to a point of learning to decenter men and just enjoy your life. And if you meet that person along the way, that's fine. But not making men like the center of everything, where they affect your mood, how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself. I just don't agree with that. It forced me to slow down. It forced me to stop worrying about the future, thinking about the future, worrying about how my life should be based on society, worrying about, oh, am I gonna get that white picket fence and have 10 kids? It really forced me to slow down and be in the present and just enjoy life now. It gets so obsessive when you're chasing. It gets so obsessive when you're pursuing. You turn into a different person when you're chasing after that very thing and you just don't let it be. Too many women spend their time worrying about finding a person that they forget to just enjoy themselves. I've seen women do hobbies and say, well, I didn't meet anyone there. Yeah, but did you enjoy the thing that you were doing? Did you enjoy the activity that you were doing? Were you in the moment, or were you just worrying about how am I gonna orchestrate this and meet the person? What if you just slow down and you just enjoy the present where you are and appreciate it? More people would be happier and feel more fulfilled, and they'll be less worried about when and where they're gonna meet this person. Because the biggest thing I learned is you really can't force things to happen. And when you do force things, and if you do force things to happen, you'll end up getting a result that you didn't ask for. When you're in a state of desperation, when you're in a state of, I just want to have this, for me, the results are never as good as when it just happens naturally, when it just happens in a moment where you're living your best life, you're enjoying yourself, you're at a 10. I didn't think this was going to be a benefit. I didn't realize this, but I was in a desperate mode, and I think most women are, but we don't realize it. We tell ourselves we're not in that mode, but we really are. And I found that it's almost like the way I saw myself and the way I valued myself started to shift, and I was starting to read the guy better, because the more I started to be in solitude, the more I could read the guy, my emotions were more out of it. It's like when you're trying to make a decision and your emotions are just not in it, and you make a better decision than when your emotions in it. There's no attachment to that idea. There's no attachment to the goal. You can read the person better, and you could actually see through them, and it's easier to walk away. A lot of people, and this was including myself, are so attached to the goal that when it doesn't fit the goal, it's more harder to leave, because you're so attached to the idea, you're so attached to the potential, that it's almost like you don't want to leave. So that was one of the benefits I saw. I created a healthy relationship with myself, that I was no longer in this lonely state. I was no longer in this desperate state. So if I talked to a guy, I could see through it. I knew if I wanted to continue or not, and there was less people pleasing. What I noticed is it was easier for me to talk to myself and say, hey Nikia, this is what we're seeing, and right now it's not benefiting you, and this is what they've done, and this is not what you're looking for, and you walk away. You get to a point where you're no longer wanting to settle just to get that person, just to get a body. You get to a point where you're like, no, we're not messing up what we have here until we get the ultimate package. We're not saying perfection. You're not settling just to settle. You've gotten to a point where you actually enjoy your life, so you don't have to settle. You don't have any fear anymore. The fear goes away because you have learned to fill that void with God. You have learned to fill that void, and you've learned that I have fun when I make girlfriends. I have fun when I go out with girlfriends and plan things. You get to see, oh, there's more to life. Oh shoot. I no longer ignore my intuition. There was a point where I would listen to my intuition, but because I was so lonely and because I was like, I need to find this person, I would push my intuition to the side, that it's not a thing anymore. I do not ignore my intuition. I will follow my thoughts. If I have any feelings, goodbye. But you see, when you get to a point where you're not afraid to be alone, when you get to a point where you're very comfortable and you're very happy with where you are, it's so much easier to listen to your intuition. Listen to those thoughts and what it's telling you. And you're no longer making decisions out of fear, but you're making decisions for yourself that benefits you. And guess what? You're not ignoring the red flags. Win-win. You're no longer going to accept what you used to accept before. Oh, everything changes. Because all of a sudden there's this new understanding. If I get someone, I need to add to my life. I'm no longer needing someone to fix my life or make me feel happier about myself, make me feel more fulfilled. It's a whole different level, because now you have this time to sit with yourself and be like, this is what I'm going to accept and this is what I'm not going to accept. This is what I want and this is what I don't want. And I don't think I had that time, because you're constantly trying to talk to people, and I don't know, there's something about decentering men. I would even go as far as just decentering people and just starting to put yourself first instead of trying to get someone, because basically they're human beings. You're just like taking them from being on this pedestal and you're removing them from that, and all of a sudden they're becoming equal to you. So now you have time to bring yourself here and keep them here, and so they're not evolving in your mind all the time. I'm also able to see more of my weaknesses and more aware of them. I'm able to talk myself through it. It's just different now. I can see my weaknesses and I can actually work on improving them and fixing them. And not just putting it underneath the rug and just saying, I need this thing. Everything gets amplified. You get to see your weaknesses. You get to see things that you're good at. You get to see things that you need to change, that you can make better. I would say it's a whole transformation inside and out. It's powerful, and I've just come a long way. With Decentering Men, I recommend most of my friends, if we talk about it, I recommend most of my friends just learn to decenter men. It's the best thing that you can ever do. There's just so much benefits. I'll never go back to centering men and making them the center of my life. I won't go back. It's even gotten to a point where it's like, if a guy asks me on a coffee date, I don't drink coffee or tea. It's gotten to the point where it's like, if the guy doesn't want to do it, I say, okay, goodbye. That's it. There's no desperation. I'm not doing things that I don't want to do just because I need the person. I respect my boundaries. I understand my boundaries. I understand what I want to do. And that's that. You move on, you move forward. And I think too many people get stuck. They get stuck in this place of doing things they don't want to do or feeling uncomfortable about it, but they do it anyways because they're trying to please the person. They're trying to see, oh, what's the potential of this? None of that. I got so obsessed with dating apps and when I was centering men that before I knew, I had no friends. I was so lonely, and my only outlet was to go on date with men. This was crazy. I see too many women. What happens is they start dating a guy and then throw away all their friends. Stop it. If you're like that, stop doing that right now. Just stop. And I have to be honest, I used to be one of those people that thought, I don't want to spend any effort making friends. I just want to find that guy so he can be my best friend and we do all the things together. But what I discovered is that when you make really good girlfriends, okay? When you make good girlfriends, you can have that girl where she'll go different places with you. You'll go on a journey together, especially if you guys are both single. You go on that journey together. You guys can relate. You guys can talk it out together, especially if they're very strong in their boundaries and their values. It can benefit you so much. You'll find yourself actually way more happier and get to see, there's a lot of benefit to having really good girlfriends in this journey. Sometimes you don't see the cycle happening where you're just focusing on those apps. You're just focusing on finding a guy that you don't realize you're not making any effort to make friends, or you don't have that taste to make friends because you're so focused. If you're going on so many dates and he's so centered in your life, how can you make time for all the other things like activities, hobbies? How can you make time for friends if that's your only focus? And it's so frustrating. If you're on dating apps all the time, it's frustrating. I'm not surprised that it gets people's moods down. And then you get into this cycle of feeling isolated. And then you wonder why you're feeling isolated. And it's because you didn't make any time to make friends. The best thing I ever did was when I decentered men, it forced me to make girlfriends. To go with friends, it forced me to put myself out there. Because you need people around you. And the only answer is not to get a man, because you may get a guy that doesn't like to do the fun things that you like doing, doesn't like to do the cute things that you like doing. And then what then? You spent all your time waiting for that guy who doesn't like doing all the cute things to then realize, man, I could have just done this with girlfriends. Because you may get a guy that doesn't like doing some of the things you like doing. I'm able to focus more on my purpose. Getting derailed is not a thing anymore. My purpose has so much weight. Where before, the men had more weight than my purpose. And I've seen a lot of women in my life where men just ruled everything. There's nowhere I'm dating someone that's gonna derail what I'm doing. Purpose can quickly go to the back burner if we feel like we don't have the person. I've seen too many women. There was a time when I was there where I wouldn't be happy with anything I had because I didn't have the one thing of having someone. Even though everything was going well, even though I was progressing in my career, in my goals, in my business, I could tell you that I will never do that again. Your purpose is just as valuable. It's so important. And no one should come ahead of that. No one. It's a desire that God has given you. And no man should come in between that. You should never stop your purpose for anyone. This goes for if you're in a relationship. You should not stop your goals for any man. I've seen women stop everything for the guy, and then they're left with not accomplishing anything, not doing the dreams that they wanted to do. No one should be doing that in general. Decentering Men has really caused me to have more time to work on my goals and have more clarity, to hear more from God about what I need to do next. It's just more clarity because you're not spending your time doing that one thing of finding someone else. I would easily let a guy sway my emotions, sway my actions, what I would do next, cancel what I'm doing to go on some date. It's so refreshing to just be in control of my life, and I decide and I dictate if I want to go on a date or not, if it benefits me. I dictate if I want to just work on my purpose and just be in solitude on a weekend. I see the worth in myself. I see the beauty in myself. I have no outside factor telling me or making me feel like I'm not good enough. There's none of that. And so when you eliminate all those things, you can only be amplified. You can only become your best self. I've learned to accept myself, and I understand I'm not the typical beauty standards, like I'm an average looking girl, but I'm really happy with myself. And I've come to a point where I understand that I may or may not attract the person that I want, and that's okay. I've got to a point where I'm completely okay being single, because no man is worth my sense of peace or getting low self-esteem, being with the wrong person just to have someone. I'm not about that life. It caused me to see the world different and how much there's so much to accomplish than to just date someone and get married to someone. There's just so much more to do. I spent too many years centering men and just feeling, oh my God, it's just that one thing. There's just so much to accomplish, there's so much to try. It's not so narrow. I got to try pottery, like I said, improv, you know, salsa dancing, going at a splatter paint place, shooting people with paint, like doing paint nights and pickleball, just enjoying life, trying other things, like just making life so full aside from just men. There's so much that I want to accomplish. I potentially want to move to a new country, travel more. I want to continue to work in my business and continue to grow this channel. The biggest lessons I've learned on this journey is I'm complete on my own. I don't need someone else to complete me. I don't need someone else to feel happier, feel more valued, and feel more beautiful. I can motivate and tell myself those things. There's so many other ways to feel happy. There's so many other ways to feel joy. My happiness and purpose comes within. I don't need validation from anyone else to confirm who I am and what I should be and how I should be and what I look to society and if my life fits into the box of how society thinks my life should be. Our only goal is not to be centering men in our lives and making it a goal to find someone. That should not be the only thing that you're doing. If you haven't already, I encourage you to try it. Try Decentering Men. Try stop going on dating apps. Stop finding someone. Try to stop thinking at every moment, is that my husband? Every time you meet a guy, try to stop every time you do something new. Oh, am I gonna meet the person? Just try to stop thinking about a guy and just be in the present, be in the moment, and you'll see how much your life changes. You'll see how much you transform, and the way you think will change, and the way you value and yourself will change. Everything doesn't have to evolve around men, and that was one of the best things I ever did, was to center men. I am forever grateful. They spend their time thinking about their self. It's time for us to think about ourselves.